on my day off just because I like you so much. So I hope you're appreciative of this. We're going to be looking at solving radical equations today. So everything you've been doing so far has been simplifying. So multiplying or dividing or adding or just simplifying a radical. And now we're going to throw all of that into an equation and see what that looks like. So solving radical equations, make sure to label in your notes. So notice the directions here. It says solve the inequality and check. So we will be checking today because sometimes you get answers that don't actually work. And you have to check it to know whether you're right or not. So we've got the square root of x plus 4 equals 7. Just like when you want to solve for a variable, you need to isolate the radical. So we're going to want to isolate the square root of x. Can you all see that very well? Let me see if I can move it forward some so you can see it better. Okay, so you want to isolate the square root of x. So for this one, we would need to subtract 4 to do that. That would cancel the 4, and we would get the square root of x equals 3. Now, how do you think we're going to get the square root of x to be x? Or what is the inverse of square root? Hopefully you are right now saying it is square, because square root and square are inverses of each other. So we're going to square both sides, and what happens when you take the square root of x times the square root of x, here, I'll write it up here. When you take the square root of x times the square root of x, you get the square root of x squared. Well, what's the square root of x squared? It is simply x. So we get x equals 9. Okay, so that's our answer. We do need to check to make sure that it actually works. So I'm going to take this 9 and put it back up into the problem. And we would get the square root of 9 plus 4 equals 7. Let's make sure that that works. This becomes 3. 3 plus 4 equals 7, which it does. So that particular answer actually works in it. Yes, that's our solution. So x equals 9 is our answer. Moving on to another one. What are you doing? Okay, here we go. Square root of 2t minus 3 equals 11. We're going to do the same thing. We need to isolate the radical, just like you would isolate a variable when you used to solve for variables. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. We would get the square root of 2t equals 14. What's next? I can't hear you. Hopefully you're telling somebody that you need to square both sides. So what do you get when you take the square root of 2t squared? Well, the square root and the square cancel. You get 2t. So we get 2t equals 14 squared. You should know this. If not, you're going to have to grab a calculator, but you should know it. 14 squared is 196. You will have to solve this equation because notice we don't have t by itself here like x last time. This time we do have to solve by dividing by 2. So t equals, and that would be 98. 196 divided by 2 is 98. Again, double check to make sure that that actually works. So I'm going to come over here to a check spot. I'm going to do the square root of 2 times 98. Minus 3 equals 11. This is going to be the square root of what was 2 times 98. It was 196. Square root of 196 is 14. 14 minus 3 really is 11, so that works as well. Hopefully everybody's following. If not, pause this. If you have any questions, you're going to have to ask your peers or Mr. McKeel. You're just going to have to speak up, and somebody's going to be able to figure out the answer, so make sure you do that. Just because I'm not there doesn't mean you can't get your questions answered. It's just not by me. Okay, 4 minus square root of 2m equals negative 6. So go ahead and write that down. Pause the video if you need to. We're going to start by isolating the square root, but notice it's minus square root 2m. So we actually have to isolate the minus square root. So we're going to start by subtracting 4. That is a positive 4, so to get rid of it, you subtract 4. We're left with negative square root 2m equals negative 10. Now, we still don't have the square root isolated because there's still a negative in the front. It's like a negative 1 coefficient, so we're going to divide both sides by negative 1. That leaves us with the square root of 2m, because the negative cancels with the negative 1, and those divide to give you 10. So the square root of 2m equals 10. Now that the square root is isolated, we can square both sides. Square root and square cancel, so 2m equals 100. 10 squared is 100. Divide by 2, and we get m equals 50. Ta-da! Hopefully you're already thinking through, okay, I better go through and check to make sure that works. So over here on the check, I would get 4 minus square root 2 times 50. I want to know if that's really equal to negative 6 or not. So this will become 4 minus square root, and then 2 times 50 is 100. That becomes 4 minus square root of 100 is 10. Does 4 minus 10 equal negative 6? Yes, it does. So my check works. That means m equals 50 really is my answer. All right, moving right along. I'll give you a second to write that down. We got the square root of 6c plus 4, and that equals 8. Now, for this one, you've already got the square root isolated. This whole left side is simply a square root, and it equals 8. So from the very beginning, we're going to start by squaring, because there's no need to solve for the variable, or the radical when it's already by itself. So the square root and the square on the left side will cancel. We're left with 6c plus 4 equals, and then 8 squared would give you 64. So now the radical is all gone. This is a regular equation that you need to go through and solve. So we'll start by subtracting 4. That's gone, so we get 6c equals, now 64 minus 4 is 60. Divide by 6. C equals 10. Ta-da! C equals 10. We're going to make sure that it really works. Bell's ringing, see? School is just about to start, and I've been working for an hour here. Whew. Some days I feel a little crazy. So we get 6 times 10 plus 4, and that's all underneath the square root. I need to see if that really equals 8 or not. So following order of operations inside the radical here, 6 times 10 would be first, so I get 60 plus 4 equals 8. 60 plus 4 is 64, so we get the square root of 64. Is the square root of 64 8? Yes, it is. So that means that the square root of 10 worked. My check proved it. Okay, same type of problem. I would encourage you to pause the video, do this problem on your own, and then play through the work that I did. Are you pausing it? Are you working? Okay. Now, hopefully you're coming back to me, and hopefully with your problem already done. So you should have squared it first. That would leave me with 3t minus 2 equals 25. Don't forget to square the 5. That's a common mistake, but you just leave 5. And that's not the case. It's 5 squared, so you should have 25. Solve the equation. So we're going to start by adding 2. 3t equals, now this is going to become 27. We still have a 3t, so divide by 3. And t equals 9. So when you paused the video and you went through this problem, first of all, did you get 9? If not, go back through my work and see where you went wrong. Ask somebody if you need to. Other thing is did you do the check? So the check does need to be done on every single one of your problems, homework included. So here's the problem. The other part to this is the check. So off to the side, we're going to do the square root of, instead of 3t, it's going to be 3 times 9, minus 2. And make sure that you have that all underneath the square root, not just part of it. So following order of operations under here, multiplication is going to come first. So we have 27 minus 2 equals 5. Well, 27 minus 2 gives you 25. And the square root of 25 is none other than 5, which is what we wanted it to be. So this check proves that that is my answer. All right, we got one left, and then we will be done. Again, this would be a good problem for you to work on your own first, and then come back through what I've got left. This radical is isolated on the left-hand side. There's nothing else over here but what's underneath the square root. So we're going to start by undoing that, which is to square both sides. The square root and the square on the left cancel. So all we're left is with the radicand. Hopefully you remember that vocabulary. Radicand is the part that's underneath the square root. So 5n minus 4 equals 6 squared is 36. Solve this by adding 4 to both sides. 5n equals 40, divide by 5, and n should equal 8. At least that's what we're thinking it equals right now. So we're going to go to the check and prove that we're right. We would have the square root of 5 times 8 minus 4 equals 6. Order of operations says multiplication comes first, so I'll get 40 minus 4 equals 6. Well, inside the radical we get 36, and the square root of 36 really is 6. So that means my check worked. Make sure that you're circling this as your answer and not your check. So the answer is that n equals 8. This is just the work to prove that you're right. So make sure you're doing the right thing. Okay, so here's your homework. I want you to do 7 through 14 on page 636. On each one of these, there's 8 total. You need to solve it, and you need to check it. So it's kind of like 16 problems total. Make sure you're doing both parts to that. You will be given it back if you're missing parts of it. So now I get to go see if I can upload this onto YouTube without Miss Comparis's help. So wish me luck. Have a good day. I'll see you later. Bye.